We have a culture here in Switzerland for cooling. We don't have AC. Centralized systems are very expensive. So what do? We open the windows at night, we close them during the day, and that's how we cool. We try to keep the inside cooled down. So what we're doing is we're actually, there is a program standardized for us. When you click it, when you choose it, you just open one window. What it does is it gets more air out than it gets in. So we are actually reducing the temperature of the substance of the building, cooling much better than just airflow. Passively cooling buildings. There's no system that does that, by the way. No centralized flow. We can.
As you know, I have a very clear mission with building green. And I know so many brilliant architects, interior designers, and contractors who do too. But they're still stuck working on projects that drain them, with clients who don't value what they bring. That's why we founded Market Your Architecture a year ago. It's a marketing agency that helps mission-driven designers attract better clients, charge what they are worth, and finally build the kind of portfolio that reflects who they really are. If that sounds like the shift you need, there's a link in the description to marketyourarchitecture.com. And before we jump into the podcast, please rate and subscribe. It really helps me reach more people like you. In a world increasingly facing the challenges of climate change, with the Building Green podcast, we will dive deep into the intersection of architecture, design, urbanism, and environmental responsibility. I'm Ladina Schipf, your host. I've been an architect and building site manager for the past 10 years. During my studies at ETH in Switzerland, as well as in my working environment, I've had many touchpoints with sustainability, like many of you, I guess. I've also learned to question what I've been told, which is why I decided to go deeper into the topic and uncover what sustainability actually means. My mission is to highlight the transformative power of sustainable architecture, not just as a practice, but as a catalyst for broader societal change. Subscribe for more of our content and enjoy the show. Most buildings are heating water no one is using, and you're paying for it. Somehow, in 2025, we are still building and designing bathrooms like it's 1960s. But why? If you're a developer or an architect, you've probably had this thought. Why are we doing the same complicated work on every project, especially for things like bathrooms? In this episode, we look at why bathrooms have quietly become one of the biggest time wasters in construction, and how a Swiss company is fixing that with standardized pre-fabricated bathroom wall systems. It's faster, more sustainable, uses less material, and makes planning and construction way easier. We also talk about energy, like why is hot water running through buildings 24/7? And how can a small heat pump hidden behind the wall fix that? This episode will give you simple, smart ideas for building better. Hi Robert, it's cool to have you here. Super excited to be talking to you today about more the technical systems to make architecture more sustainable in Switzerland. It's actually fun because we went to school together in Barcelona, like
long time ago,
when your hair wasn't gray yet.
Exactly.
So looking forward to hearing what you've gone through in the last few years and how you apply it to make a more sustainable world today. So tell me a bit your journey and how you got to Swiss Frame where you are today.
Sure. So I started with my bachelor, just pretty normal. My studies in mechanical engineering. I went to the University of Lucerne first, and then moved to a more technical commercial position at Sonamp. It's a storage manufacturer for energy, heating, and cooling. And from there, I moved to Swiss Frame on a more senior position, still in the commercial sector. For me, and being able to learn a lot more about the Swiss market, which in the past was more an international position. So now I have a lot more contact with plumbers, architects, the owners, investors. So discussions are different. Much more intensive in some sense, because we always talk about the specific project, where in my last position I was more on a long-term discussions, long-term partnerships, where you discuss a lot more the prices, the goals, how are you going to attack or to tackle the market, the specific market. So conversations were all different than I'm having now.
And tell me about Swiss Frame. What is the problem that you're trying to solve with Swiss Frame?
Yeah. So the problem that the Swiss Frame we are trying to tackle is very Swiss specific, in a sense that we haven't changed the way we build in Switzerland since the 1960s. My personal opinion is that I think we can just pay for it yet. So we still do this business how we are profitable and how we are able to do it. But in the plumbing system, especially in the high-rise buildings, here in Switzerland, most of those apartments are rented. So 60% of the apartments in Switzerland are rented. And those apartments are usually of high quality, but especially with the goal to remain useful for as much time as you can. The way we build is not in that sense, though. So we have been building as houses. So in a house, you enter, you're the owner, you want the bathroom as you want. Here's 5 centimeters, I want the bathroom, the shower to be that way, and so on.
So everything is personalized for every apartment or every building that we build.
Yeah, correct. And we have just translated that way of building, or that way of doing things, into multifamily houses for renting apartments, which makes sense if you can pay it, but it doesn't make sense for the long term, because you cannot assure quality. To put it in a way, if I'm having a high-rise building with 10 apartments or 40, a plumber that has the project or has won the project needs to build, if every apartment has 1 bathroom, 40 new bathrooms. In a house, that's not the case. But in high-rise buildings, you have that. So Swiss Frame has developed actually a standardized wall system that you can actually have the full system of plumbing already behind the wall, so that you could just come into the building site and you just install it, you just attach it to the wall.
So just a second. So for those who have never heard about it or who might listen from the United States, what is it exactly that is delivered on site? A wall with pipes inside, and then you just add the toilet, shower, and all that on site.
Yep. We have designed not only, so the wall system exists already. That's not the new thing about Swiss Frame. The wall systems exist actually since many years already. So you have planned something and you say, well, I want that prefabricated, prefab, and install it on site as quickly as possible. That exists already. Swiss Frame has gone a step further and has designed standard bathrooms in that sense.
Okay, so if I was a developer who wanted to build a multifamily house, I come to you and I pick between 10 different bathrooms, the one that I want.
Yeah.
And then can I still choose the appliances that I like the most?
You can choose the appliances, that's correct. What you cannot choose in that sense is the height, the distance between the to wash your hands or the toilet or the shower. This you cannot choose in that sense. From our perspective, you don't have to. That's what we think. We have a huge problem in Europe, especially in Switzerland, where we're missing space to live. And we think that standardized solutions are the way to go to solve that problem.
It's funny that you say that, because from an architect's perspective, I think most architects, unless you have a renovation where you have to deal with what you have there, most architects use the same books with the reference, the standard sizes anyway. So we look which one fits in, and then we have that personally built, right? And instead of spending our time picking the beautiful tiles or the things that the beautiful finishes, the beautiful products, we spend our time picking between which standard bathroom we choose.
Yeah, that's in a sense, it is also our experience. It's not that positive for us, because at the end of the day, what we have seen is that people go from experiences. So if they say, especially investors that build a lot, and rent those apartments or those buildings, they say, well, I've built for 20 years that way and it has been successful, so why should I change? It's a valid question. That's not what we are questioning. We're questioning there has been a way of building that we were able to because we had the capacity. So everybody that was involved was of extreme quality in that sense. But now that we are in a digital world, the building world hasn't changed. The building market hasn't changed that much. So we have a very capable digitalized generation that comes into a market that it's not digitalized. Mm-hmm. And this amazing shift that you have is incredible between investors that are from a different generation, a different way of building, to a new generation that comes that does things in another way. You have this gap in between that we're trying to close and to say, listen, just put a system that is proved. We are 17 years in the market, over 6,000 systems installed. We would know what we were doing, and it is necessary. It is good.
So walk me through the process. If I was a developer, when do I start working with you? How does the process look like until I walk into a finished bathroom?
The easy answer is as soon as possible. That's a disruptive part of Swiss Frame. That's the hard part in the commercial sense, or on the commercial side. Usually you have somebody that wants to build, and then you have an architect that does a first sketch, a first recommendation, first drawings, maybe even a model, and you decide a certain architect. And then from there, the architect chooses or goes into the planner and says, I need everything. I need hot water, the heating system. I need everything inside here, and that's the project.
Specify everything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's usually when the problems start, because the architect had a different vision on the building. Of course, the planner comes from a very, very technical side and says, I don't have space for anything. And then it's when it starts the back and forth, and the building ends in a different way how it was thought. And that's where we think we can do it differently. With standardized systems, you can actually already as an architect say, this will be the bathroom, and this is the standard as it is. Mm-hmm. So the whole plumbing system, you have it already defined very, very well, because even if you're not a plumber or not a planner, you're able to say, this system has space here. So with our standardized, the plumbing is already given in that sense. So mm-hmm. it's especially for the investor is a very good point, because you can save a lot of money on the planning side, because most of the things are already given.
And how about dimensions? Because it's not the same, the dimensions for a 5-story building that for a 10-story building.
We solve that. In Switzerland, we have a certain standard, and it is funny, but the differences are not that big in the plumbing world. If you do things correctly and you know what you're doing as usual, things are easier. But for us, the standard has proven that we can go from an 11-story to a 3-story with the same system, and it works. Mm-hmm. There are no problems, neither with fire nor noise, for example, noise between the different apartments, flushing, for example. These is usually things that you never think of until you live in it. If you have a standard, there are never problems with them. Mm-hmm. We have always the same thing, and it never is a problem, so it will never be a problem.
Mm-hmm. And do you also install the system?
Mm-hmm. Interesting question. We don't. We show the plumbers how to install it. And that's one of the key features of our system, is that Baltic, he's the founder, he is a plumber from his apprenticeship. So he actually designed the system for plumbers. So it's not an engineering part, I don't know what, it's from a plumber for plumbers. So they actually love it, all of them.
That's cool. And you must have super clear SOPs, like an IKEA shelf just installed.
Absolutely. And that's actually also what this generation of plumbers now are coming in. They're also interested in that. They actually don't want to be kneeling and hitting the wall with anything. They want clean solutions that they can install quickly, that they're proper. That it's a way of thinking actually. But yeah, generation is also very diverse, so there will be others. But that's what we think. This is a smart solution to do.
And how does the construction look like? What materials do you use?
So when it comes to circular economy, we are very, very strong on that. And from the early beginning, that was a point. And none of our parts are glued together. So they're all with screws. So you can actually separate that very well. So the moment the system or the building is not useful anymore and you want to restore or to build new, whatever, you can actually separate everything. So when it comes to steel, aluminium, all plastic that you need at the end of the day, you can actually separate it properly. That's first. And the last one is the part that you see. Of course, we have a plumbing system, a very technical system. That's not what people are interested in. They're interested in what you see. And there we have a Corion front that's actually very, very similar to wood. So you actually work with it with wood.
But it's more resistible, no?
It is. It's not, it doesn't react with water, which in a plumbing system, very important. It doesn't react with water and it's in some sense natural. So it actually adapts also to the environment to some extent.
And then you just put tiles or whatever you want on it.
Yeah.
And how thick is the system?
The system itself is depending if you're only on the plumbing part or on the energy part. The plumbing part alone is 24 centimeters.
That's thinner than the standard, like from literally outside to outside. Okay, that's usually what I've done, especially if you have like 2 bathrooms, then it's at least 32.
We have a system that is 32 exactly, and that's when we enter into the energy. That's a completely different topic. We can also talk about it, but when we talk just about the plumbing system, the standardized over 5,000 units installed, that's the depth that you need is 24 centimeters.
So let's talk about the energy.
Oh, absolutely.
What's the problem we're tackling there?
So in Switzerland, especially in Switzerland, we have centralized systems for heating. We usually combine heating and hot water. That comes from a time where we had fossil fuel systems, gas, oil, and that makes sense. You have a lot of power, you have the ability to just burn when you need it, etc., etc. Now that we're entering into a more renewable world, centralized systems need a lot of space. A heat pump that has the same power than a gas boiler needs 4 times the space. And if you're, especially in renovations, you don't have the space for that. That's the first problem. The second problem is you will be downsizing the heating system so that it fits. For the heating, that's not a problem because you're putting insulation into the walls. But for the hot water, that doesn't change. People will not shower less just because the building is insulated. So when it comes to hot water, you're having a massive tank that you need, and you don't have space for that either. So that's just in the basement. The second thing is here in Switzerland, we like to circulate hot water. We have a lot of rules that indicate or that are mandatory that if you have a high-rise building, you need to circulate water so that people, when they open the tap, they just have 10 seconds until they feel hot water.
Do you know where that comes from?
No, actually, no, I don't.
I would love to hear people from somewhere else in the world what their thoughts is about that 15-second or 10-second rule.
Yeah. I don't know now if it's 10 or 15 seconds. But
I'm also not sure. I think it depends also on the height of the building or something like that.
That's possible, yeah.
Anyways, super fast.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it comes to quality of life. So if I need to wait 30 seconds, I'm obviously leaving open the tap and leaving.
Exactly. It's not just quality of life. It's also wasting water, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if somewhere else, we both lived in Spain. If you have to wait 5 minutes or 2-3 minutes, you just leave the water tab open.
Absolutely. So all those things then lead to a circulation of hot water, and those are massive losses. So you need to circulate hot water through the tubes, and these losses, you just pay it.
So that means right now in this building, hot water is just circulating in case anyone in the building wants to take a hot shower.
24/7, just circulating.
It's crazy.
Yes, it is crazy. And to some extent, it makes sense when you have just that one option. Mm-hmm. And we had that in Switzerland. We have centralized system, and then we had the electro boiler, which is just a tank with an electrical resistance, usually in the kitchen, and this delivered the hot water. Those systems are not allowed anymore here in Switzerland because they are they eat electricity, which is a very valuable energy source or energy. So the Swiss government says, no, you cannot just put energy into water. You need to pass it through a heat pump. So that this high value energy, you can translate it into heat. It makes a lot of sense from a technical perspective.
How does a heat pump work?
Oh, that's a good one. So basically you have a source of energy somewhere. Let's say you have the outside is with air. If you're having water, it's water. If you're having the ground source, it's from the ground. And then you have a place where you are putting this energy. Basically what we're doing, and this is very important from a technical perspective, cooling doesn't exist. The way that means is that heat goes into a direction. So if I want to cool this room down, I need to get the heat inside, outside. The other way around. If I want to heat it, I need to put the heat inside. And this is how a heat pump works. So it takes the energy from one place and puts it into another. That's the basics of it.
Okay.
If we want to go more technically, we will get lost. But that's...
Does it also work the other way around?
Mm-hmm. Yes. The new heat pumps, especially with propane as a refrigerant, are able very, very well to deliver heating and cooling. And this is very useful, especially when you have a ground source heat pump, because in winter you can actually get the heat out the ground and put it into the building. And in summer, you're taking the heat out of the building and put it into the ground. And it's very smart.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I have a question from my American listeners. Why do Swiss buildings not have an AC?
That's a very, very good question. You can have an AC as long as it is centralized.
Okay.
The idea that you just have yours, like you have in Spain and everywhere else. The danger there, and that's what Southeast Asia is experiencing, is you're putting exactly the heat inside the building outside. Mm-hmm. Now in Southeast Asia, you have the extreme situation that you have per room one AC. Mm-hmm. So now you have to imagine that everybody's doing that. Of course, the heating outside is extreme. And the more heat it is outside, the more inefficient it is. So it is
the more you need to cool inside. Yeah.
So you're eating up all this electricity that is already expensive. And that's the fear here in Switzerland, I think. In general, it is forbidden. So you will never find an architect and you will tell him, I want an AC only in this room. He will tell you, no, that's impossible.
And with the heat pump that works the other way around, is that legal?
Yes, it is. My personal opinion is it is very smart when it comes to efficiency of a product. So you have one product that delivers everything. When it comes just to efficiency in cooling, air-to-air systems like those are the most efficient ones. I mean, they're cheap. It's possible to compete with those. They're sold massively. One of the biggest markets now would be India. There are only 60% of people that don't have access to AC. You have to imagine a growing market, a growing economy, how it is India. I mean, only 20% of that, how much is that of a market? Mm-hmm. It's just crazy. Mm-hmm. And all those people that the wages are getting higher and higher, which makes sense. More and more business is going into India, so more people will be able to afford ACs.
It's also a high priority, right?
Oh,
if you're
absolutely.
trying to work and it's 35 degrees outside and you just can't work, then an AC is as important as water, right?
It's quality of life. People pay for that, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So let's go back to the system. I interrupted you when we were talking about the electric boiler, which is illegal here in Switzerland, and you explained to me how a heat pump works. So what's your solution?
Exactly.
With
so
Swiss frame?
we have the problem of the centralized systems that don't have space, and in the new buildings we have the problem with circulating hot water. A lot of losses, very expensive. People pay for it. So what we're suggesting is actually the smart solution, which is having a very small heat pump with a hot water tank in the bathroom. So you have it behind the wall with the 32 centimeters, and you're able actually to provide hot water for the full apartment just from that. Now, where do you get, as we mentioned, the heat pump needs a source of energy. And in new buildings, they're closed. So in old buildings, old houses, you have a natural air that passes through. The windows were not as they are today, and in new buildings they are. So they are closed. No air is passing. If we don't open this room here, we will get a lot of CO2. So you get it's not nice to be in here.
You basically fall asleep.
Yes, for a long time. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're putting ventilation into the buildings, which you have here. You have it here already.
That's actually a not a typical standard, but a nice Swiss standard to have controlled ventilation, right?
Yeah. Controlled ventilation is what we have, and this is how Swiss Stream started. So we went from a plumbing system into a plumbing system with controlled air ventilation. And the point there is that we're actually exchanging, it's with a heat exchanger inside. So we're recuperating the heat that goes out. Mm-hmm. So let's say from this, it's winter outside, so it's hot inside from the heating system. We are putting the used air out. So when fresh air comes in, it gets the energy passes to the fresh air. So the air that comes in is hot. Mm-hmm. So there are no losses in energy. Now the point is that the used energy without that much energy that gets out is already lost. Usually this level of energy is not useful. So what we're doing is we're exactly putting in that part the heat exchanger for the heat pump, so that the heat pump gets a source that is unuseful for the world.
That's cool.
Yes. Such a holistic system doesn't exist, at least in Switzerland. We have really checked, it doesn't exist. We have it also, there is a patent on it. Exactly. So this is the way we provide comfort air, so controlled air ventilation for the full apartment. And we deliver hot water, very efficient, the most efficient system in the market at the moment. Because you don't lose anything. Mm-hmm. Exactly where you use the most energy is the bathroom, is the shower. So it's exactly near the bathroom. Mm-hmm. So you have everything.
Mm-hmm. Also some additional information, since a lot of the Swiss market is rented apartments. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of regulations or rules they try to make to open up windows once every few hours, so that the tenants take care of the building to get out the humidity. And that's a risk, or all these mold problems are solved with that controlled ventilation.
What's also interesting from a regulations point of view is in new buildings it is mandatory. In old buildings, when you're renovating a building, it's not mandatory, but you're exchanging the windows. There is no air passing. Mm-hmm. So you will get a lot of humidity that doesn't get out. Mm-hmm. And the reason why people are actually deciding not to do it is because ventilation shafts are big. You need space for those. So you're much recommended with a decentralized system that just has one and that's it, not up, down. Centralized systems are usually on the roof, And everything that you put on the roof is PV space that you cannot use. So with decentralized system, you maximize the PV space that you have.
Just a quick reality check. If you're constantly over-delivering, working around the clock, and still chasing the right kind of projects, you're not alone. I keep meeting architects, interior designers, and contractors in that exact cycle, which is actually why we started Market Your Architecture. We help you reposition your work and get in front of more of the right people, so you can finally choose who you want to work with. If that sounds interesting to you and you want to know more about us, you'll find the link to marketyourarchitecture.com in the description. And if I was a developer worried about, systems break, right? And even machines even more. And that's probably something that would speak for having one centralized, easy to access system. What would you tell me if I told you I was worried about putting one heat pump on each floor?
Yep. It's a very valid point. And we actually, this is one of the biggest issues that we encounter. What I can say, and with full I'm fully convinced of what we're doing. The technology that we are installing is not new in that sense. It was in the 1990s and in the 2000s, absolutely. But the technology we're installing is well proven. The one that is mostly installed are actually in our premises. It's since 8 years there and hasn't needed anything since then, except the regular checking and maintenance. What I would say to the planner is you have a very big advantage, especially when it comes to renting units. And this, when you rent a unit in Switzerland, you're not allowed to enter until somebody says, yes, you're allowed to. So you have no idea what is happening in your property. For me, that's a huge risk. For us, it is mandatory to have a maintenance of at least once a year for the air. So if you're not doing that, we cannot ensure the air quality. So actually, it is possible that we need to turn off the hot water. And that's the advantage. When you enter the facilities, the apartments, you're able to see what's happening.
So it's an excuse for the owner to see the apartment, see if people are taking care of it. That's a valid point. What are other benefits for the developer or the homeowner?
Yeah. That's the most clear is actually that you have access to something that you actually didn't have until now. The second one is decentralization of air allows for specific air flow in your apartment. My grandmother has different needs than I have with a full family of 4 in an apartment. If I like to cook with a very spicy, I have different needs than someone that doesn't cook at home. So decentralized systems allow for very specific needs and for microclimates, which are one of the points for the ESG rules here in Switzerland. And you can never achieve that with centralized systems. You can't. You need a decentralized system. That's one for the air. And very, very important, we have a culture here in Switzerland for cooling. We don't have ACs. Centralized systems are very expensive. So what do? We open the windows at night. We close them during the day. And that's how we cool. We try to keep the inside cooled down. So what we're doing is we're actually, there is a program standardized for us, is we are actually, when you click it, when you choose it, you just open one window. And what it does is it gets more air out than it gets in. So we are actually reducing the temperature of the substance of the building. So we're actually cooling much better than just airflow. So we're actually able to passively cooling buildings. There's no system that does that, by the way. No centralized one. We can.
That's interesting. Is it certified?
Yes.
Okay. And what are the challenges? What are things?
Challenges, obviously, is at the end of the day, you have a very technical system in every apartment, right? You mentioned it. The moment you have a centralized system, professionals can come in, just check what's happening, etc., etc. So that's one challenge, is to convince people it's not complicated what we're doing. It's not rocket science anymore. And it is a reliable system. I mean, with 5,000 system of the plumbing, 800 just with air included, and 200 with air and hot water, we wouldn't exist if the system wouldn't work. So that's one thing. But still, it is challenging to convince and to explain decentralization of energy. We have lost this sense of decentralizing with the electrical boiler. Actually, we have lost this sense. So we're just centralizing everything and just paying for it. That's what we're doing. And for the challenges, obviously, when it comes to the plumbing system, as mentioned, the market has a way of thinking. And these specifics that I want this here, I want this now, and it gets extremely complicated for the plumber at the end of the day. So actually, the first thing I face when it comes to sales is, do you agree with that setting? Do you agree that the bathroom will look like that? I mean, we can play with the shower, you know, you put it here and there and that. But when it comes to washing hands and to the toilet, it will be like this. That's the first question do you agree with that? Because if not, you're not looking for a standard. That's okay, but you're not a customer then.
But does your standard or do your products look very different from any standard you can find here?
No, that's the funny thing. When you talk about the standard, people say, oh, but the standard means that I need to then accept a lot of things that I'm actually not ready for. And when we see then on the market, on the building side, is you have changed that little and you're paying that much for it. I don't understand, especially from an investor's point of view. What you're looking, especially for apartments that you rent, you're looking for reliability, quality, quick installation, not a lot of problems when it comes to different people in the bathroom, because there are a ton of people in the bathroom to make it how it is. I don't understand it at the end of the day. But of course, we cannot fit into every bathroom. That's completely clear for us. But that's not the point. What we're trying to do is to bring a standard to a market that actually we think needs it very, very badly.
Talking about investments, how much is an investment into one of your bathrooms compared to a traditional one? Because obviously you have productized a standard, but there is so much more included, right?
Yep. That's a difficult comparison. We face that every time we say the price, people say, oh, no, that's way too expensive for a bathroom. But when we calculate it, really what you're getting and the comparison to a plumber or to another conventional system or a prefab system, we're actually we're much cheaper. And the explanation for it is very, very easy. From an economy of scale point of view, if you're having one building and you say, I want prefab, I want a standard for my building. Very good. First great idea, especially in apartments, you want a standard. You will be, let's say you have 40 apartments. You have 40 bathrooms. So you will be building 40 same walls, prefab walls. What we are doing is we're putting a standard for all the buildings. So while you have decided the standard for 40 units, we have a standard for 500 units. You will never get there from a price perspective. So we are very, very competitive when it gets to that.
And you bring the full wall with the pipes and the
Yes.
probably insulation, you do that on site, right? Because it goes through okay.
We do everything. So one of the important things is the bathrooms need to be one above the other. That's one of the most important things. And it makes sense, but actually we see that not everybody thinks the same.
But that's anyways what you do if you want to build efficiently.
Absolutely, yeah. We just have different experiences when it comes to that.
Tell me the stories.
It's interesting that you say it. It's just it's very, very different. The way of thinking, it's very, very different for every stakeholder in the market. So from an investor's point of view, I actually don't want any building. I just want a return on investment. I don't want a building, to be very honest. You know what I mean? From an architect's perspective, it needs to be nice, it needs to be functional, it needs to be certain characteristics that most probably other buildings don't have.
Unique.
Exactly.
Creative.
So that doesn't sound like industrialization. Very simple put. From a planner's perspective, I want something that I don't need to put much hours in it and still get good revenue. And from a plumber's perspective, I don't actually want a lot of work, but I still want to get paid. And the plumber is usually the one that doesn't get a lot out of high-rise buildings because everything has been downsized to everything. So plumbers are really suffering here in Switzerland when it comes to high-rise buildings. But usually they don't make the money there. Usually they get their costs covered so that with the houses, the family houses, they can actually do the profit there. And that's our challenge, right? So we have a lot of people that want to downsize everything, but they don't want to pay for quality. And they want still the bathroom to look like this. Yeah, well, you cannot get everything. So somewhere you need to fix it. Oh, you asked what are the risks?
Okay.
What are the risks or what are the challenges of the system in general? So one thing is really the whole technical side that you have inside the bathroom. That's a challenge. People are not comfortable with that very easily. Especially investors who want, no, I want everything in the basement. I want access to it. I don't want any problems with the tenants. I completely understand that. But our experience is that actually there are no problems with the tenants. Actually, the tenants are happy that they have information about their usage of energy, really, actual information about it, and they are able to influence it. You can choose what level of air that there is in exchange. You're paying less if you want. So you actually to influence that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Just for context, in Switzerland, a lot of people are just renting, and you get an invoice for your electricity spend every few months, every 4 months, I think. And you don't really know where that comes from. You don't know how much it costs to turn on your dishwasher or stuff like that. And I strongly believe that if we had more transparency there, people would waste way less energy.
Absolutely. That's also our opinion. In 2027, it will be from the government. They have made it mandatory to install smart meters. So you will be able to measure the energy consumption. Question is if I will be able to measure the energy consumption from the dishwasher. I don't know that. But we're able to measure how much energy you are really using when it comes to air. So your comfort air and the hot water. We're actually able to measure that. And people are interested in that. It's not the app, whatever, because I don't know what the difference is between measuring at home or at work how much energy I spent in heating and in hot water. But I am actually able to measure that and to show it to the consumer. So he's interested in what he's doing. And one strong thing that will come for sure is PV on high-rise buildings here in Switzerland. You actually don't see it a lot. There is a very easy reason for that. And it is there is no solution when it comes to using this PV. If I stay at home every day because I'm working here, I actually using very cheap electricity, but everybody paid for the PV, solar panels on the roof. So how do you cover that? How do you manage the return on investment? How much I pay? How much? It's extremely difficult. It's extremely complicated. But when it comes to apartments for renting, that's amazing. You're one investor, you choose, you decide PV will be that, so bam.
And this is also for high rise. You have more apartments, but a small roof surface compared to the amount of apartments. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there, for those things, you just need the storage. Plain and simple. And we are able to work with PV systems. And exactly. So you actually, if you have a smart system, if you have a smart building, you're able to not pay for hot water.
Cool.
The cheaper it doesn't go.
And what's the perfect size or amounts of apartments where it makes sense to build one of your systems or the Swiss frame system?
Basically, it is about height. So the higher a building goes, the more this is not stores. the more levels you have. And the more levels, the more complicated the plumbing system becomes if you're not doing things very smartly. So when it comes to the minimum amount, I would say 10 to say something, but it's specifically to the point where you say all the bathrooms are all one above the other. That's the main criterion that we need to have, that it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You've also worked outside of Switzerland on international projects. What do you think are things that, well, Switzerland is often known as being very innovative. You are now talking a lot about old systems, which also prove that they work, right? What are things that other countries could learn from that?
I would say old but gold. It's very, very good. I mean, in Switzerland, we have certain problems that we were building and everything, but it still works. That's the very foundation of Switzerland, is being able to not volatile, change and run into different directions and doing things differently every year. That's really foundation of what Switzerland is, and the market, the real estate market, obviously too.
So you're contradicting me. It's not that we're famous for innovation, but for efficiency or quality.
I think we're famous for innovation. We are very smart and very brilliant when it comes to conceptual part, but when it comes to implementation, we're very, very slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not slow because we don't believe in it. I think we're slow because things worked in a certain way. So why should I change it? It's a very valid question. So that's the biggest issue I'm facing when it comes to sales. I mean, there is a certain way of doing business. Why should I change? Well, there is a full list of things that we do that you have a lot of advantages. There are some disadvantages, but you can live with it. You're getting very, very cheap when it comes to quality. Maybe one thing that we're not doing at all in Switzerland, and for example in the UK and in the Netherlands, is very, very well made and done. When it comes to construction of high-rise buildings, they have complete decentralization. So you have actually a very small heat pump at home that delivers the heating and the hot water. So you have not centralized anything actually. So you have a very small heat pump that is able to deliver the heating and to deliver the hot water for the full apartment. So you actually can pay exactly where you're using. Mm-hmm. This doesn't exist in Switzerland. I had a discussion a couple of days ago with an architect and with an investor exactly about that. They asked, well, you're decentralizing. Do you have a full decentralization? They said, no, but if you're interested, I'm the biggest fan of that. If you want to develop something, please tell me. I will push internally, no problem, because I'm fully convinced about that. And there is the same. You will have no losses at all. Mm-hmm. Nor for the heating. I mean, the heating, you also have to pump it up. So you have some losses there. You will not need it anymore. If you will have just 2 pipes. I mean, from an installation point of view, from a planner's point of view, it's amazing.
And what about the gray energy for producing several decentralized systems, let's say, compared to one centralized one?
That's a topic people always think about. Well, I have just one heat pump and one tank in the basement, and now I have a lot there, here, and there. How is it possible that it's cheaper? It comes to the tubes. The tubing inside the building is amazing what is needed. And when you have especially heat pumps with air, you have those tubes going through the building, and those tubes cost. It's CO2 put into the tube. So the tube is made of CO2 at the end of the day. And it's about the tubes, actually. That's one. Second one is gray energy. You need a basement for centralized systems, and the basements are always made out of concrete. If you don't need a basement because you have a decentralized system, you don't have concrete, which is knowingly the most CO2 Consume, yeah. You need a lot more of CO2 to have a concrete basement than just have wood, for example.
There's also something special in Switzerland. I think that we all have basement, garage, everything's underground. Yeah.
I talked with a developer. It was very interesting. He said, space is not a problem. Also, amount of apartments is not a problem. We actually don't have space for the cars. You have a mandatory amount of car spaces that you need to plan if you're having that amount of apartments. So you're actually downsizing all the apartments because you need car spaces.
And the bigger the apartment, the more cars you need. So you I was once working on a project with around 40 apartments, and we were like going back and forth with the calculations of how many, if we make bigger apartments, we need more cars, but in the end it's less because it's like 1.5 parking spots. And if you have 2 small apartments, you need 2 parking. So that was.
And you can rent a certain amount of square meters. So what's the ROI on the investment? And you can calculate everything. At the end, that's my experience now. It's not vast, but my experience now, it's a question, a more philosophical question. What do you stand for? Do you stand for car spaces because you're actually looking for family? So you will need a car. Absolutely, it's possible to not have it, but I really think as a family, now that I'm a father, I need a car. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, at least one. I'm sorry. So it's really what you think, what your building should deliver. Also decentralized, centralized systems. It's philosophical questions. You can make calculations to the end of days. It's not about that. It's more, how are you convincing the investor or the planner about your system, that they will not break down, that you're delivering quality, etc., etc.
You talk a lot about traditional long-lasting systems. Now, how are you using AI to make your systems smarter, or are you even using it?
Yep, we have.
Are you still going to the library?
We haven't actually. We have AI for us hasn't been a topic, because we're standardizing everything. So actually, needing AI for us would be actually a negative point if it would be needed for us. What I can say is we're using AI, or we're planning to use AI, is actually for the service. So we talked about all the energy. We have 35 sensors in our systems, and those 35 sensors are actually measuring almost everything: CO2, the temperature inside the water tank, how the heat pump works, the air temperature inside, outside. We're measuring almost everything. And with those data, the goal now is to develop an AI that is able to monitor all those systems, so that actually, when there is a problem arising, the AI can identify it before it breaks down. We're talking about a performance, so a predictive maintenance that we don't need to check. There is an AI doing that for us. And the moment something arises, they say there is an alarm. I say, listen, this one is something doing strange, and I don't know what it is, or maybe I actually know what it is, but you need to check it. And this is of extreme value, especially for investors. If you know that something is not broken down but has problems, you don't have calls from tenants. You actually can go to the tenant's place and say, listen, there is this and that. Have you experienced, loss of hot water? Yeah, absolutely. I can actually only shower once. We know what to do, but you still had the chance to shower. You're not here and say, I don't have hot water, and you get angry calls. That's not happening.
So it's for a better customer service.
Yes, absolutely. For us, it is.
Yeah, and it's also good for the owner if he knows that his tenants are going to be happy. That's the most important part for him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, not having the problems, and if problems are arising, being able to identify them in advance before they happen. Those happen. That's the idea of how we are intending to use AI.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Ladina.
If people are interested in Swiss Frame, they want to follow your work, get to know more about the system, where can they find you?
The easiest way is through our website. Otherwise, we're also active on LinkedIn. But yeah, the easiest way is through our website. We have also some new things on it that are very, very cool. So we're also making steps forward when it comes to communication. It is through our website. Yeah.
Tell me about the new things. What excites you the most?
The excitement for me when it comes to communication is actually being able to show what we have done over the years. I just joined Swiss Frame 5 months ago, and one of the things I noticed is that actually we haven't almost not shared what we have done. I mean, can you imagine something that has been installed 6,000 times and you haven't heard of it? I mean, that's what I'm now very, very passionate about. I mean, we need to show what we've done. It is amazing. It is the most hard part. The hardest part is actually to implement what we have developed. We have done it. We need to tell that. We need to explain that and bring it to the world because we have done the work.
It's actually amazing, especially nowadays with social media blowing up. Everybody is trying to think of something they can do so they can talk about, and you have done it.
We've done everything. we haven't just not talked about it. So now it's the moment to talk about it. Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of your projects, how the system works and everything.
Yep. Thank you very much for the interview. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
A huge thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you listen to the podcast to support me and so you don't miss an episode. And while you're there, I'd also be so grateful if you could rate and review us. If you have any guest suggestions or any feedback, you can find me on the socials at Ladina Schipf. Thanks.